Well, I'm going on a walk to the shops. This is the first time I've had a decent walk for a while. I'm feeling under the weather. I've had this itchy eye thing happening, and I guess it's an allergy because I've also had hives. Yeah, they're pretty bad. You can see them there. They're pretty gross. They're not itching at the moment. They're past that phase. It only lasts about 24 hours. But I've had it before, and it's sort of like a reoccurring thing every maybe 3 months or so. Could be some pollen here, could be anything, I guess. But yeah, I'm a bit run down because rubbing my eyes, not as much as I was. I think I'm on the mend, but you know, it just affects your sleep and everything. So haven't been 100% the last week. This will probably do me the world of good, just having a walk. I'm just going to get some medication anyway, so. And update my contact details with the GP. I got 4 Visa cards from ING yesterday through the mail. So it hasn't stopped all this crap. I'm still getting garbage like that. I rang them up. I got onto a woman online who seemed to be a bit more proactive than the guy I spoke to, because the guy said, oh yeah, we've identified it as fraud. This is the previous time they sent a Visa card out to me. And I thought, oh well, they know about it. They've got my name, they've got my address. Surely they can cross-reference and I won't be hearing from ING again. Wrong. Like I said, 4 Visa cards through the mail yesterday. Different account numbers, but under the same client ID, which is for me. So I don't know what's going on with ING, but I did get an email address from them. They actually have a fraud section, fraud@ing.com.au, and I sent it off to them, the details. So hopefully that'll be the last I hear from them, because I've never ever had an account with them or ever applied for an account from them. So yeah, so that's hopefully the end of that one. I actually got a bit of information from Brett Olds, who's our counsellor, and over that section there you can see there's quite a bit of bushland. That's actually where the creek is, and coming up to the end of this street to Bondi Crescent, right down the end of here to the left, there's a pathway that goes into that parkland. And I was thinking, wouldn't it be great if we could, you know, the council or whoever could build a couple of footbridges across that creek, so I could just cross directly over that way, and it'll probably be cut 1/3 of the walking time to the shops from me, and also means you get to walk there through a bit of bushland, which is nice. But I was told by Brett that forget it. There's 2 problems. One is it's very expensive to do that sort of thing, and secondly, green tape. He said that it's a state government reserve, and it looks as though it's hands off. You can't do any development. That's the way I read it anyway. So the too hard basket. So it's a bit disappointing, but then again, it may still be worth putting out the feelers. It may not be as dire as that, but I can imagine being a counsellor, it must be very frustrating with all this bureaucracy you have to wade through continually, because you've got 3 layers of government, local, state and federal. So it wouldn't be a picnic, that's for sure. So we're just coming up to where that little laneway is, which I don't think gets used much because maybe dog walkers use it. But it's just sort of scrubby land now, and you can walk all the way up to the road, but it's not, there's no defined pathways, so it's a bit dodgy. So this is it here actually. So down there, that little pathway there, that's the entrance to that little bush area. So unfortunately, we won't be seeing much action as far as that's concerned. I think it'd be a great asset because I was very impressed with the urban design of the southern Brisbane suburb, Forest Lake. I know it has its distractors. One of my subscribers has a major negative against it, but I think the urban design is excellent. I actually also found out that the lake they have there has got plastic contamination in it, so there are a few issues there. But I think overall the urban plan of having interconnecting pathways for bikes and walking, I think is excellent. And I wish we could do something like that here, but it may not be that easy. That was probably a greenfield site, and had carte blanche to design from the word go. And I guess that's an easier way of doing it. Whew. Feels a bit humid. There's quite a few clouds around, so we haven't not copping the sun, which is good. But it might even rain. Looks a bit threatening. I had to wait about 25 minutes for that script. It's ridiculous. And not only that, the eye drops. Every other time I've gone into to get them, there's a 5 repeats on it. For some reason, the GP put no repeats on this one, so I can only get one prescription at a time. I'm going to have to go back and get another one off them. Bloody ridiculous. Oh, at least the weather's improved. When I was walking up here, it was spitting the whole time and quite windy. It's actually changed dramatically. I've got some clear sky here because it was quite cloudy, and it was like a wind tunnel. I saw a few kids on their bikes riding towards the shops. Gee, that would have been hard work. Getting all the water in their face, plus riding against the wind. Oh, you do silly things when you're a kid, don't you? You've got plenty of energy. Not like old codgers like me. Looks as though we're getting close to the second test flight of Elon Musk's Starship from Boca Chica in Texas. And it's slotted in for Friday American time, which would be Saturday morning our time. It all depends whether they finally get the FAA approval to launch. They're just waiting on the bureaucrats to give them the okay. Very frustrating because the SpaceX has been ready to launch for at least a month. So, you know, it's just bureaucrats are just holding up progress. And it is only a test launch. We need to get a few more launches before we can prove this technology. And like I say, all they're doing is slowing down the progress. The only people that would be doing well out of this would be the current competitors to SpaceX, because if Starship's as good as they say it is, it's going to be so cheap to operate. It's going to basically destroy all the competition. Bigger payloads than the other spaceship, plus incredibly cheap. So really looking forward to it, but it is so frustrating that the Fishing and Wildlife report seems to be what's holding up the FAA approval, and it's just crazy. But all the signs are leading to the fact that SpaceX is in the belief that they're going to get that approval before Friday in US time. Another thing that I discovered recently, apparently EV sales are not doing that well lately. And the segment of the market that is doing quite well is hybrids. I know very little about hybrid cars, but basically the battery in a hybrid is tiny compared to what's required for an EV, because basically it still uses an internal combustion engine in conjunction with a small electric motor, which in a lot of models will actually do the grunt work in city driving at slow speeds. But if acceleration is required or a faster speed, then the internal combustion engine takes over most of the work. And while it's doing that, it also charges up this small EV battery that's in the hybrid. So the beauty of that is you don't have to plug the thing in to charge it, because the actual internal combustion engine does that for you. So that's one of the great attractions to it. And the cost apparently is only marginally more for a hybrid compared to an internal combustion car, an ICE car. So it's like a couple of thousand at the most, and apparently you can get that back in about 5 years of driving, and just better fuel efficiency with the hybrid. And the other thing is the battery infrastructure in the car should last about 15 years, so it's pretty well the lifetime of the car. So that's not bad. So they become very popular, and that's the technology that Toyota is currently promoting until they get their solid state battery perfected, which will be a total game changer and finally make pure EVs economically viable. But at the moment they're just too expensive. Apparently Tesla's had to slash the prices of their cars, and other automakers have done the same thing. All the EVs have come down in price because people just aren't buying them. And I predicted this. I said if the economy goes sour, it'll be regarded as a luxury item. It'll be the first area to really be hit by a drop in demand, and I think I'm pretty right on that one. It's Monday, and I've got to head off to down to Cairns, get myself a CT scan, one of my choice times. Actually, they're not too bad. I've done a few of them over the last decade or so, so I'm quite used to them every 3 months basically. So that's no big deal, I guess. I'm feeling still run down though. I've got this irritation in my eyes, rubbing my eyes. Last night I had a really bad back itch. So bad I had to get up a couple of times just before midnight and try to quell it because I just couldn't sleep with it. And that has happened before. So it's getting warmer. I think it's probably going to be it'll be low 30s again today, and at the moment I'm catching the bus just after 1 o'clock, so probably about the hottest time of the day actually. So not ideal. Fairly eventful weekend, at least a very eventful Saturday night, in that we finally saw the second test flight of Elon Musk's Starship from Boca Chica in Texas. And it went better than the first flight, I'll put you that way, but they've still got a lot of work to do. Here's the bus, so I'll get on the way back. Always nice to know it's running, that's the first step. Yeah, so they lifted off at about 11 p.m. Australian time. That's Eastern Standard Time, not daylight saving, of course, at midnight for the people in other states. So things that went well was that like I say, it took off pretty well on schedule. There was one minor delay at the 40-second countdown spot. That's where they'd review the launch, and they held it for probably about 30 seconds or so, but it seemed a lot longer because anticipation is pretty great when you've got such an historic flight. But it did resume. The weird thing is it actually went below 40. Everybody at the starbase started cheering because all the nerdy engineers thought it was definitely a go. Then they pushed it back to 40 seconds and they all shut up. But yeah, no, it did actually continue. It did resume at 40 seconds, and there was no problems after that. Went to the 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom, and it was spectacular. This is the first time all 33 Raptor engines have ignited successfully, and it was a beautiful takeoff. It looked like an LED light. It was that really white light. So it's different to what the normal exhaust you get from a rocket, I guess, because it's a methane-based rocket fuel. And the first stage, right up to separation, everything went perfectly well. The first big hurdle was separation, though, because they'd got a hot separation system in, which is an extra ring that joins the first and second stages, and it has holes in it to allow exhaust to escape. And what they do is they actually light the 3 of the engines on the Starship before it's detached from the main booster. So you can imagine that there's quite a bit of heat and thrust created there and quite a bit of tension. So it's quite an engineering feat that worked. The separation went perfectly well from the looks of things, although they might find a few glitches when they look up the data. But then the first stage, which was meant to basically dump into the sea off the Atlantic coast of Florida, that turned around. It had to actually do a cartwheel type maneuver to get to right itself. But by doing that, it lost a couple of its engines and then it just exploded. So rather than actually dumping into the sea, they just basically went poof. And the Starship itself kept continuing on. That's the first time that's happened. So they had a successful separation. So the Starship was intact and heading towards an orbital, almost a suborbital area that was destined to go to. It got up to about 24,000 Ks per hour. It was supposed to get about 28. Before it did, though, that had a malfunction as well, and they think it self-detonated. And that was about 6 minutes into the actual, 6 to 7 minutes into the actual flight, that the Starship itself also basically exploded. Was caused by the actual mechanism in there. There's an automatic termination device there to blow it up if there's a worry with any of the systems. And rather than flying right over to where Hawaii is and flying down there and testing the heat shields, that wasn't possible. So it wasn't a perfect test. It would have been nice to see how the heat shields held up. According to Scott Manley, who actually did a video on it, he's a fairly well-known YouTuber. He said that there was a couple of tiles that looked as though they'd been dislodged by just the lift-off, so they have got some work to do with the heat shields anyway. But look, they weren't able to test them on re-entry, which is one of the things they wanted to do. So they didn't tick all the boxes, but they'd made progress, because the first stage did everything it should have done, except the actual, once it had separated from the other ship, it's supposed to right itself and fly down, and actually they're supposed to be able to recover it at some stage, but not yet. This is all part of the learning exercise. So it's a bit bittersweet, because it would have been nice if it went perfectly, but it was a much better flight than the first one. So they're making progress, and hopefully in about 3 months' time they'll get the next flight. So they'll be able to speed up the amount of times they test it, because that's how SpaceX works. They basically need to keep testing and testing and testing until they get it right. And hopefully the FAA and the wildlife, Fishing and Wildlife Service won't have anything, well, the Fishing and Wildlife Service shouldn't have anything to do with it, because the other good news is that the pad itself was intact, because they had the water suppression system, and that seemed to work beautifully. So there doesn't seem to be any damage to the actual pad, so that's a huge improvement on the first flight. So given that, and given the fact that they had the hot separation did actually work, they were able to basically separate the first and second stages. That's huge, but there's still a lot of work to be done. It worries me, because I want to see the damn thing in service. If everything goes absolutely perfectly, maybe by the end of next year, but that might be just still asking for too much. But it's supposed to be being used for Artemis, the Artemis mission in 2025. That doesn't leave much time. So it was great, but there's, like I say, there's a lot of work to be done. So I wasn't 100% happy with it, but it was pretty thrilling to watch, and hopefully they'll be able to get another flight in around January, February in 2024, and hopefully they'll achieve all their goals in that one, and they can move on to other jobs that need to be done, like refueling in orbit. There's a lot of new techniques to be tested, so it's a long to-do list. It took a lot longer than I thought today, going down to Cairns, all the crap I had to do, but I just asked it with the bus coming back. I actually had to run up to the bus stop, and the bus was about to leave from the stop down in Cairns, and I actually just got the bus driver's attention before they pulled off. And after that, then they came up to the Cook Highway stop just up the road, and just ahead of us was the 111, which I needed to catch. So if it had been behind us, it would have been an issue, but because it was ahead of us, it was going to be really dodgy whether I was going to be able to catch it or not. And as it turned out, I got out of the bus and it started pulling off again. Another bus tried to pull off, and it stopped and started a couple of times, but eventually I got the driver to actually let me in. But it was hard work getting this bus back, but I've actually made it before 5 o'clock, before drinks time, so, which is a miracle, and the weather is looking really, really threatening. So that's why I've got an umbrella in my hand, because it does not look good. So catching those buses could have been a real godsend, but talk about cutting it fine. So there you go. Some of the bird life there. There's plenty of wildlife around this area. Let's see if wonder if I'll spot a wallaby putting the rubbish out tonight. You never know, but look at those grey clouds. Please consider subscribing to my channel if you think there's anything there of use to you, or entertainment or whatever, and either do that or give me a thumbs up, or if you're feeling really energetic, do both. That'd be great. But please don't ignore me. That's the worst thing you can do on YouTube, is be ignored.